Okay, how many of you tried all the exercise or whatever the demo I gave in the last session? How many of you tried in your system? And I believe all of you are in sync with whatever I covered, right? So I would, the best advice is to make this training program more effective. Don't get distracted. Put your phone on mute and while attending the training program, even 2 or 5 minutes, if you get distracted, you will not be able to grasp the subsequent topics, and you will end up watching the 2 hour video, 1.5 hour video, which will be really overkill, because already you are spending 1.5 to 2 hours time as part of this session. On top, again you'll have to spend more time. Okay, and also if you are proactively opening all the things like Power BI desktop, and if you connect the Zoom from your Power BI, sorry, your laptop, and also if you can open the SQL Server Management Studio, we can speed up things. Okay, that is what is expected in the real-time scenario. When you once you get into development project, they will expect you to be up and running. Okay, all right. So now we have seen. Now we will take a look at how to connect to SQL Server. In the previous session, we discussed about how to create tables or how to load the data from Excel into SQL Server. It is very simple one, and I have shown you right step by step how to create the database using SQL Server Management Studio. I hope all of you have created or installed the this thing, right? So you've installed the SQL Server and SQL SSMS. I'm not going to repeat this, and since a few of you already mentioned that, right, you want me to move further instead of keep talking about the installation part, fine. So here databases, right click on it and click new database. Okay, before that, you just to refresh your memory, so go to your start button, SSMS, just type it and click on SSMS, Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. Open it. It will take some time. Okay, and you need to wait for some time until it opens. Okay, don't click more than once. So you might be under the impression the moment when you click on the SQL Server Management Studio from the start button, it'll take a few minutes. Okay, it depends on your system capacity. If you have 16 GB RAM or if you have reasonably 8 GB RAM, even in that case it will take longer time to launch this application. So you'll have to really have a lot of patience. But if you think that you just clicked on it and it is not opening it, and if you double click or if you click it more than 2 times, it will open 3 sessions, your entire system will hang. So you need to have patience, wait for some time, and it will open. Okay, and now how to create a database, we'll take a look at it. So how do we connect to this? So for example, if you click on the connect here, if you click on connect your database engine, and it will open up here. You don't have to make any changes here, simply click on connect. And some people, I told you need to type here, in this case localhost. I'll just show you. Localhost, yeah, that's all. Okay, and in my case I don't have to type localhost, because sometimes what will happen is it depends on the laptop, right? In some laptop you will be installing it, it will not pick up your laptop name, you wouldn't have given any name. Okay, so in that case it will simply pick up localhost, while it will use localhost while installing the SQL Server and SQL Server Management Studio. So this is your server name, this is your client. Which one? The SQL Server Management Studio is a client. Using the client, you are connecting to the server. It is something like this. Let me just give me a second. So client server, I'll just tell you what is client server. You need to first install the SQL Server. That is how we did it. We installed the SQL Server. This is my SQL Server software. This is my, see, this is database. Okay, sorry, the picture is not good. And let me draw neatly. This is what my SQL Server. And what we do is we install the SSMS software here, right? We use SSMS. So what we do is we write all the SQL queries here and create the database, all the script, the create database. You just right click on there and click and you specify the database name, right? So everything you do it from the front end. This is kind of you just think this is a front end SSMS. You write create database or SQL queries, all the things you do it, but end of the day, everything, all these commands will send to this server, SQL Server. So I call this as a client and server, client server. So you are accessing this, all the tables, database, everything gets created here. So what is database? This is my SQL Server. In the SQL Server, we can have n number of databases. Each database you can have n number of tables and other objects. Each database can contain n number of tables or n number of objects. What do you mean by objects? Tables, and you have index and view, like different objects are there. Let us not worry about that. At this moment, you just think you have installed two software. The first one is SQL Server, the second one is SSMS. Here only we write all the queries. Here we don't write anything because this is very developer friendly. You don't have to be familiar with the syntax for the SQL queries or create database, everything. Just by pointing and clicking, you can create the database. You don't have to remember the syntax like create database name. Actually, behind the scene, when you right click on it, this is what the script will get generated. See, when you right click on it, all you do is just click on new database. Here you specify the database name. So for example, supply chain management. I have a new database, supply chain management. Click on OK. That's all. We are not going to do anything beyond this. It will create a database. Look here, supply chain management. So if you expand this, you can see, as I told you, this is a database. This is my SQL Server. A single SQL Server can have multiple number of databases. These are all databases, and each database can have more than one object. So these are the objects. Okay, synonyms, tables, external sources, service broker, storage. So there are different objects. Storage is actually, it is not an object. Security, all the things we define it here. Okay, views, tables, these synonyms, these are all objects. So a single SQL Server, this is my single, sorry, one second, single SQL Server, one second here. So this is my SQL Server, okay, and in this single SQL Server, you can have multiple databases, and each database you can have more than one table. It's something like a city. In a single city, a city can have multiple houses. Each house, multiple people will live. You just think that way, okay? So that is how it is. You can create the objects, everything here. Let me just. Okay, now I created the database called supply chain management, and here the sales database we already created in the last week weekend session. You learned how to load the table, everything. So how do we load the data from your Excel into your SQL Server? Just right click on the database name, and here you have tasks. In the task, import data. Okay, you just click on the import data. So here, after clicking on this, you need to wait for some time. You have to really have a lot of patience, and especially when you work on the real-time environment, like in the real-time the development environment, also it will take a lot of time to connecting all the things, because we work with millions and millions of records. So you need to click on this to select the server name. Okay, in this case I made a mistake. Source and destination, you need to tell. That's a simple common sense. If you wanted to load the data from Excel into SQL Server, I need to tell this tool what is the source and what is the destination. My source is not SQL Server native client. One second, it takes a lot of time. That's what you need to have, clear mindset when you go to work, and click on the Microsoft SQL. This is my source from the Excel. What I want to do it, I want to extract the data from Microsoft SQL. Excel file. From the Excel file, I need to import the data into my SQL Server. How will this tool know? No, because we need to tell them explicitly. Since we are telling them explicitly, for example, date data and dim location, all these things, category, customer location, product, I did not do it. Product, category, everything is there. I just do it one more time for your sake, because somebody asked me in the meanwhile. Okay, so next. And now it is asking the destination. Where the hell you wanted to load this files data? So I wanted to load that Excel data into my SQL Server. So I need to choose SQL Server native client. So here automatically displays the server name. The server name, you don't have to change anything. And in some cases, as I mentioned earlier, you need to specify local host here. Instead of using the server, this is my laptop name. You can use the local desktop also. Look here, automatically it selects the database sales, and if you click on the down arrow, you can find all the databases available databases in your existing SQL Server. Next, click on next button. Wait for some time. Going forward, right, so I'm not going to repeat all the things. It is highly important that you need to watch my video before attending the next day session. For example, tomorrow session, before you attend tomorrow session, you watch today's session video one more time. Look here, right, so this is the one. It got selected automatically. You might find something strange name here. Don't worry, this is the sheet name which is part of your dim location. So here I have only two columns are there. Just by clicking on edit mappings, I made sure that yes, I am working with the right data set. Okay, so the data set has these two columns. Okay, and next, and run immediately. Next, finish. It will take for some time. You are not supposed to get any error here. 7 rows transferred, success. Okay, 7 rows transferred. Okay, close. Next, you need to click on the database. What is the database? Where we loaded the Excel file. We loaded the Excel file into the sales database. But here, the table is not visible. You need to refresh it. And then you need to expand tables. It was showing something like sheet $1, right? So this is the table. And right click on it. Now we can see the table, see the Excel file data which we loaded, right? So that name is sheet $1. Right click on it, select top 100 rows. You don't have to select star from all the syntax. You don't have to be aware. Simply right click on it, select top 1000 rows. If you click on it, it will fetch all the data from this table called sheet $1. Look here, this is my data. See this command, this SQL query, this is called your SQL query or SQL query. Did I write it? Nothing. All I did was just right click on it, select, and then I clicked on this one. So this is the beauty of using SSMS. Look here, SSMS, this is the front end, right, the client. So the server, we don't use server because SSMS is very user friendly, developer friendly. Just by right clicking on it, we can view, you can generate a query, right? You don't have to remember the syntax, you don't have to remember everything, right click. But I would strongly suggest, not only me, the best practice is always type the command, select top 1000, right? This is the best way you can remember the SQL queries, how to write everything. If you find any difficulty in remembering the syntax, you can click, just click on this, and then the query get generated. Fine, everything is good. Okay, but you need to start practicing it by writing the queries on your own. Okay, so that it will persist in your memory. Okay, the next thing is, now we are able to load the data from where to where. So the first step, what we did, load the Excel data into SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server. Fine. So the second step is, now I wanted to connect to this SQL Server, data into sales database of SQL Server. Second step is, I want to use the Power BI to connect to SQL Server, connect to this sales database, the table, okay, say, or sales data, connect to sales database, which is available in SQL Server. Got it? So Excel data we load into SQL Server, and the next step is, once the data get loaded into your SQL Server, you need to give the proper table name, everything, and then view the content of the table, whether the table data got loaded successfully, table got created, whether the data also got loaded successfully. You need to check it, and then the next step is, go to Power BI and then connect to sales database, which is available in your SQL Server, and then select whatever the tables that you want to load it into your Power BI desktop. So that is what we are going to do now. The first step was over. We are able to successfully load the Excel data into the Power BI, the SQL Server. Next, I am going to see, I launched my Power BI desktop. When you launch your Power BI desktop, you will get something. This is your welcome screen. Click on the cross sign. I don't need that welcome screen. So I click on the get data. Now I want to connect to the SQL Server. Click on the SQL Server from this get data thing, and it will take some time. Look here, after a while you will find a dialog box something like this. Here you need to specify the server name. Okay, here you need to specify the server name. Which server name? SQL Server name. Look here. So click on connect and click on database engine, right click on it, copy, and then paste it here. This is your SQL Server database, SQL Server name. Okay, this is your SQL Server name, and here the database name. Which database? We can specify whatever the database that you wanted. So here I already created a sales database, and I loaded all the Excel files data into this sales database. So now all the Excel data got loaded here as a tables, right? So all of them were like a tables, and here I'm going to specify this database name. This is optional. You can specify the database name, or you don't have to specify it. If you don't specify the database name here, when you click on OK, it will show all the databases that are available in SQL Server. I don't need to see all the databases, so I am very particular about sales database. Fine. And if you look at here, so 1 second, this is a painful thing. So if you look at here, you have two options: connectivity mode, the import and direct query. By default, the default connectivity mode is import. Okay, so we will start with the default connectivity mode, and then we will take a look at what is direct query in a little later. Okay, so I just go ahead with the default connectivity mode import. I just click on OK. It will take some time to load the data. Ideally, it should display the load icon here. Many of them get confused whether it is loading it or not, right? So after a while, the data preview window will get loaded. See all the tables that are available in my sales database. You can see it there. All these tables that are available under the sales database, you can see it here, right? The course, department, dim category, the course, depart, dim category, dim customer, employee, location, all this, whatever you see it there, you see it here also, because you connected to the SQL Server from your Power BI desktop. Okay, now what all tables that I needed? I select the tables that I wanted to get loaded into my Power BI desktop. Click on dim customer and dim category and dim location, dim product. And I'm not going to import fact table now. Okay, so category, customer, product, location, fine. I just click on load here. So now the preview is evaluating. It tries to open the data that belongs to each table, and it shows you here. And that's it. I don't want to see any more data here. And click, or if you are very particular, or it is best practice, you just click each and every table and see whether you are going to import the right table, right? So you can validate it here by clicking on it here, and you can see that here. Okay, so these are the things. Okay, fine. And the next one is click on. So all these tables prefixed with a dim, I'm going to import it here. Dim stands for dimension. Okay, the meaningful name we have given here. So category dimension, customer dimension, location dimension, product dimension. These dimension tables also called as lookup tables, because once you get into a project, you will be interacting with Americans most of the time. They keep use this term lookup table. You should not get confused during the status call, or when they give you the knowledge transition, or when they explain you the business logic. They will use this term lookup table. Don't get confused. It is nothing but dimension tables. That's all. The next step is load. I don't want to do any transformation now. Click on load, because the table, everything got created already there, and I don't need any transformation. If anything required, we will do it later. So I have connected to the SQL Server via my Power BI desktop using the default connectivity mode import. Keep that in mind. So now, since I selected 4 dimension tables, these 4 tables are being loaded now into my Power BI desktop. The entire data will get pushed from your SQL Server to here locally. All these tables data gets loaded into your Power BI desktop now. You need to remember this point. They are simply downloading the data. Something like you go and download your favorite movie from YouTube. Similarly, a movie or song. The same way, we are downloading the data from my SQL Server into. So in this case, the SQL Server is available in my laptop itself. The real-time scenario, You will not, you are not supposed to install SQL Server. Even if you install it in your local laptop, you are not supposed to use this to connect to the customer's database. So in the case of real-time scenario, you will have to connect to the cloud. The cloud, most of them, they use cloud. In the cloud, they already installed, they would have already installed the Microsoft SQL Server. So they will give you the server name or the URL. You need to connect it there. You need to connect to the cloud and import the tables. Same thing, whether it is available local or cloud, that doesn't matter to you. Simply what you do is go to get data, click on SQL Server. In the place of server name, you need to specify the domain name, where on the cloud, the URL. So where the SQL Server got installed on cloud, you need to give that. That's all here. So look here on the right side, just beneath the fields, you can see all the 4 tables got imported from my SQL Server into my Power BI desktop locally. And now I wanted to see the columns that belong to each and every table. Just click on this one and click on this, expand this, expand this, expand this. You can see the data column belongs to each and every table here itself. And if you want to see the data, click on the data view here. So you need to click on this icon, and then once you click on it, you will find the same table names here on the right side. So you need to click on any one of the table here. For example, I want to view the data from DIM category, or DIM customer. You click on the table DIM customer, and when you click on DIM location, it will show the location related data. What data got stored in dimension, product dimension. When you click on it, on the left side, it will get loaded. So to load this, it will take some time. You have to have patience. Look here, we can see the data that belong to all these tables. By clicking the respective table name, you can see the data here, the corresponding data here. Next, I am going to click on the model icon. So this is my model icon. This is called Power Pivot. If you see here, it will be something like the tables get linked with some lines and all. DIM category, DIM product, DIM customer, and you will find something like this. Okay, so we are DIM customer, DIM product, DIM location. So, and if you scroll towards the right side, you will find the other tables also. Okay, don't panic if you don't see the table which you imported it in your Power BI desktop in this thing. So all you need to just use this scroll bar, or you can simply click on this one. It will get expand or collapse, so that you can get a view of all the tables when you expand that one. Sorry, when you collapse that one. So what is this line? So this line, when you keep the cursor over this one, it shows on the left side and right side of the table, cat ID got highlighted, which means it created Power BI desktop as a capability to automatically detect the relationship between the tables based on the common columns. What are the common columns between these 2 tables? Cat ID and cat ID. So you might be asking, category is also common, but usually it goes by the ID or something like that. Okay, and category. Okay, so this is the kind of a primary key, cat ID. Here also it is kind of composite key here, cat ID and product ID, composite primary key. Okay, so now if you see these 2 tables, we don't see any line here. There are no lines got created. Let us not worry about that at this moment. Let us go to the get data again, and I am going to click on SQL Server. Okay, and here I just did Control V because I already copied this one from my SQL Server client, SSMS client, and the next one is I'm going to use sales. Listen very carefully. This time I am going to use a direct query instead of import. Okay, direct query here, and okay. So again we connected to the same database sales, and all I want is I want to import the fact table. Usually the fact table volume, data volume will be very huge. So here in this case, for illustration purpose, I have used hardly few records. In real time scenario, it will take, it will have a lot of data in it. Okay, the sales fact table will have a lot of data in it. Anyhow, to give you the flavor of or the sense of how to work with a huge volume of data, I have another data set. You can use it. That I will tell you later. Okay. So now sales fact. Usually the fact table, the table that either prefixed with the fact or suffixed with fact, these tables will have huge volume of data. So when you click on the table, on the right side you will find blank value initially, and after 5 minutes or 8 minutes or 10 minutes only you can see the data in the case of real time scenario, because the volumes of data are very very huge here. Alright, so now I am going to click on load. So this time I created a connection between Power BI desktop and SQL Server, and I use the connectivity mode direct. Look here, it is saying something like potential signal. You can simply ignore this one. Click on OK. Now it is loading all the tables once again. Actually, we are not supposed to load all the tables again. Fine. So anyhow, let it be there. Look here. Now we are in. We are very particular about loading only the sales fact. Now the sales fact, we don't see it here. And click on the fields. Expand this one, and you can see the sales fact table got loaded successfully. These are the columns are there. But here in the model view, we don't see the fact table. You need to slightly scroll towards the right side, you will find it here. So what is the difference between these table and this table? In this table, like if you see here on top of this table, there is a blue color line, which means we have loaded or we have created or we have imported the metadata of your sales fact table using direct connectivity mode. So this blue line tells us direct connectivity mode. The rest of them tells us these are all import connectivity mode. So you remember, I have shown you here, in the case of Excel, when you import the Excel or CSV file, you will not find this option. But in the case of SQL Server and other database, right, you will find these two options. So direct query mode and import mode. All the 4 tables here got loaded with import connectivity mode, and this one is direct query mode. Okay. So now the question is, what are the difference between these two? This is a direct query mode connectivity, and this is the import mode. In the case of import, it will download the entire data for these tables locally into your Power BI desktop. Whereas when it comes to sales, the direct connectivity mode, it will not download the data. Instead, it will download only the metadata. Okay. So now if you want to see the data of sales fact, you cannot see it here. Even if you go to the data view here, and if you select sales fact, you will not be able to see the data, because this table uses direct query and cannot be shown. The rest of these 4 tables data, you can see it here, because these 4 tables data got downloaded into my laptop, whereas sales fact data was not downloaded. Instead, what it does is, it just creates a pointer to my SQL Server. Don't download the entire data, because the sales fact table has humongous amount of data. If you download it in your laptop locally, you will run out of space. It will take a lot of time. Maybe 1 week, 10 days, even some cases 1 month also to download the data, and also you will not have that much of storage space. Okay, in the sales fact, let's say you have 0.2 petabyte volume of data is there. So oddly your hard disk is 1 terabyte only, right? So 1 terabyte into 1024 terabyte into 1024 2024 terabyte is your petabyte. Petabyte is very, very huge volume of data, and don't ever do the mistake of downloading the data from your SQL server into your Power BI desktop, especially for the fact tables. So here what happens, simply it download the metadata. So what do you mean by metadata? It just simply download the structure here. Okay, you download the structure, and what happens is in Power BI desktop, if you create any visual and if you wanted to use some columns in the visual, what will happen is the Power BI desktop will generate a SQL query. That SQL query will be sent directly to your SQL server. Okay, so what Power BI desktop says is, in this case, don't download the data, instead you generate a query and send it to your Power BI desktop. So I just give you some analogy. So what analogy can I use it? For example, see, in the case of direct connectivity mode, see, direct query mode, what happens is, this is my SQL server, this is my SQL server, this is my Power BI desktop, right? Power BI desktop, I imported the metadata of sales fact, only the structure, the table name, column name, that's all. The data was not downloaded here. So what Power BI does is, listen, in Power BI report view, if I create a chart, line chart or some column chart based on some sales amount of from the sales fact table, what will happen is the Power BI will generate a SQL query. So here I have used sales amount and let's say category. The x-axis I plotted category, y-axis I plotted sales amount. So in this case, what happens is, when you create a visual like this, visual, in Power BI we use the term visual for the charts. So in the column chart, when you drag and drop the, I just neatly write it. So let's say category and ignore this one, and sales. You just dragged and dropped these two columns. From which table? From the sales fact table. What will happen is, in the Power BI, the data was not available for sales fact. Instead, Power BI, what it does is, for these two columns, generate a query. Select sales, comma, or select sales, comma, category from sales fact table. It will generate simply this query. Which one? The Power BI will generate this query. Will generate this query, and then this query will be sent back to the SQL server. In the SQL server, this query will get executed. The output of this query will get sent back to your Power BI desktop visual. Got it? So what is the advantage of this one? What is the advantage of this one? So in this case, the sales fact table has huge volume of data. If you download it here from this server to this server, if you download it, the downloading itself will take a lot of time. You remember the simple analogy, YouTube. If you want to watch a movie, it is not downloading the entire movie, right? As and when it buffers, it buffers the video, right? So it'll keep something progressive bar comes something like which the first 2 minutes the video will get buffered. Whatever the buffered, as and when the video data get buffered, it'll play the video, right? And then it'll gradually buffer the rest of the videos, right? So it will not download everything. As and when it buffers the video, you should be able to view the movie, right? So here what happens is something like what Power BI does is, since this table sales fact we imported using the direct query mode, direct connectivity mode. So Power BI, what it does is, hey, don't download the entire data because it's huge volume of data. Instead, you generate a query and send it to your SQL server, and then run this query against your sales fact table and return the data back to your visual that is part of your report view. It is something like that. Let's say, The another example is, this is, just think that this is Bangalore, okay, and you are in Pune. You are in Pune office. You are a manager. Let's say you are a manager. So in Bangalore, you have a team, project team, and 50 members are working in that team. Your project, you are a manager. Your project is, project members are sitting in Bangalore office and they are working. 50 members are there. Is it wise to send all the 50 members to Pune and ask them to work there, or is it wise to ask the manager to go back to Bangalore and work there? Tell me. So what is the answer here? So what will you tell? What kind of decision that you will take it in this scenario? Please type it in the chat window. Even if there is a spelling mistake, grammatical mistake, I don't care it. So let's say you are a manager, you are working out of your Pune office, and your project team is sitting in Bangalore. 50 members are there. To execute this project, if I send a manager from Pune to Bangalore, does it make sense? Or if I send the 50 members from Bangalore to Pune, does it make sense? Which one makes sense? Type it in the chat window, please, okay? I want all your contribution. Help yourself. You just think that I am also a part of your team. Okay, let's say we are working in the same project. You just tell me which one is wise. Which one is wise? Come on, yaar. Are you all feeling sleepy? See, sending one person from Pune to Bangalore, it really makes sense. If you send all the 50 people from, all the 50 members, and you need to give the accommodation to them once they go to Pune, because they are, let's assume that they are all from Bangalore. All the 50 members, you need to give them accommodation, and then you need to allot space in the office, right? And instead, you can, since you have only one man, better send him here. The same philosophy here. 50 members is a huge number, and one is simply, see, in this case, what happens? Power BI simply generates a one-liner query or two-line query. This query may be, right, it will take less, 1 KB. 1 KB is very, very small thing. Sending 1 KB size of SQL query to your SQL Server is makes sense, or sending 0.3 petabyte data to your Power BI is the best option. This is the best option, right? Simply generate the query and execute the place where the data resides. Don't bring the data here. So wherever the data is there, you just generate the query and send it here, and this query can run against this data, and the output of the query will get sent to your thing. I'll just show you in Power BI desktop quickly. I just go to this one. Look here. Now I imported this table, sales fact. Here product ID and product ID. I just create a relationship. Look here. You select the product ID and point it on this product ID. It will take some time. Yes, Srilata, correct. And Ranjana, right? So product ID, the dim product and sales fact, product ID, product got. So click on OK. Now we are able to create the relationship between these two tables explicitly, one to many. And here you have customer ID, and here you have customer ID. Hence I'm going to drag and drop this. So customer ID and customer ID, you need to drag this. Look here. It automatically opens in the customer dimension table and fact table. I want to relate these two tables. The common column between these two tables are customer ID. We don't see product ID here, isn't it? The dim customer table, we can see customer ID. The same customer ID, we can see it here. Click on OK. Since it is common between these two, we are able to create a relationship between these two tables. Done. We are done with this. So, and I just create the location key and location key. So you need to create the relationship between sales fact and dimension location using the location key, because the location key is the common key column between these two tables. You cannot create a location key and cost price, okay, the relationship. location key and location key, these two are common between these two, or simply you click on the manage relationship. So the new relationship, there are two ways you can create the relationship. Simply drag and drop it, or click on the manage relationship icon. So here if you take a look at here dim location, and here sales fact, what is the common column between these two tables? Location key and location key, right? Select these two things. So the location key got highlighted, and here also it got grayed out since I selected here, and click on OK. Look here, the dim location, location key and sales fact, both of them you are able to create the relationship. After you click close, it will take some time to create the link between these two tables. Anyhow, we will take a deep dive how to create the data model. So how to create the relationship between the tables as part of the data modeling topic. At this moment, you just don't worry too much about this. Anyhow, if you understand it now itself, it will be good. Okay. So now I go back to my report canvas. In the report canvas, I just go and click on the clustered column chart. You can choose whatever the visual chart that you want, you can choose it. Initially it will be blank because we are yet to populate the data into it. So here what I do is I just select category and drag and drop it here, and then I just scroll down. I'll expand the sales fact table data here, and sales amount I just drag and drop it here. Look here, my chart is ready. So here, what are the columns that I used it? The x-axis I used category, in the y-axis I used sales amount. The category is coming from where? From the category table. How do I see that? See here, when you select this visual, it will get highlighted. On the right side, just beneath the visualization, you will find something like axis and legend, values and all. Okay, and here if you keep the cursor on top of the column name category, so dim category, the category comes from a table called dimension category, and the value, see this is very interesting, please concentrate. The sales amount comes from sales fact table. These two columns are coming from two different tables. This is come from the dimension category table, and this comes from sales fact. So here what happens is, the dimension category table, we downloaded the table data inside the Power BI desktop, whereas the sales amount we did not download it. Instead, right, so what will happen is, the report canvas, the Power BI, what it does is, when you create a visual like this, at the time of visual, it will send the query, generate the query and send it to your SQL Server, because the sales amount was not downloaded here. Instead, it will send that query to your SQL Server. Here, where is the sales fact table? Right, in the sales fact table, if you see here and select top 1000, so what happens is, it will send the query like sales amount only, it will send it here. It will generate a query something like this, and then it will send it something like this. I just click on execute. Look here, this is sales amount. The sales amount comes from here, from the data. So this query will be generated automatically behind the scene in your Power BI desktop. For example, if I go and click on the transform data, this is my Power Query editor. In the Power Query editor, you can see all the tables queries here on the left side. So we are interested in sales data. I just clicked on it and I just click refresh. Okay. And if I right click on it, okay, here it is not showing anything. Look here in the Power Query editor, once I selected the sales fact, on the right side just beneath the applied steps, you will have navigation. Right, you will find something specific to see, this is very specific to the SQL Server or any databases. Okay, view native query. Look here, this is the query, right? This is the query got generated by my Power Query editor. But in the visual, we are very particular about sales amount. So in that time, what will happen is it will send only that query to your backend, okay, SQL Server. So you can see that one also in the backend. And here you have something called, in the tools, you will find something SQL Server Profiler. Okay, ideally if I create it now, after starting your this thing, right, and if you drag and drop it, it will get loaded there. You generate the query and then it will capture this one there. Fine, so I need to come to SQL Server Profiler to capture the, okay, I need to start this one. Okay, I did this one, pause selected trace, start selected and start this one. Look here, it is getting loaded, customer type, everything. And see these queries, see whatever the query is that I have generated, right, it is getting the query generated and sent here. In the visual, I just did drag and drop, dragging and dropping these columns here. Automatically the query has been generated behind the scene. That you can go and see it using SQL Server Profiler. This query was sent from my Power BI desktop because the sales amount column was coming from the data for sales amount is lying in my SQL Server only. I did not download the data. Look here, this data I did not download it locally. I download only the category and category, these 4 columns, and the fact table I did not download it. So what it does is it generates the query on the fly when you create a visual, and that query sent back to your SQL Server and fetch the data, and then it does the filtering, everything automatically. So in that case the performance will be much faster. This is called query folding. This is called query folding. I'll just write it here. So they will ask you what is query folding. So now we learned how to connect to the SQL Server from Power BI desktop, and we have also explored the direct connectivity mode and import connectivity mode. The import connectivity mode is the default one, and in the case of import connectivity mode, it imports the entire data locally into your Power BI desktop, whereas in the case of direct connectivity mode, it is not importing the data, rather it is generating, the Power BI desktop is generating a SQL query, and that query will be sent back to your SQL Server database, and that query will get run or get executed in your SQL Server. So the output will be sent back from SQL Server to your visual or your table, whatever it may be. Okay, so now you understood what is the difference between the import connection mode and direct query mode. Fine. Okay, what is query folding? Generating the query, SQL query, and then sending that query back to your SQL Server source itself and execute the query at the source system itself. Don't download the data, instead send the query. Something like sending manager alone. The manager is here, SQL query, and then the data is residing there. Go and execute the query on top of the tables and then send me the output back to my Power BI desktop. So otherwise what will happen? If you import, when you use import mode, the entire 1 million data will, or 25 million data will get downloaded here, and then it will show the data error. So let's assume that to download the 25 million or 35 million records of a sales fact table inside your Power BI desktop, it takes 8 hours time. And then to populate this visual takes another 30 minutes. So who will have patience, right? Instead, you can use the direct query mode. You go and execute the query, send only the output to my visual. This will take hardly 2 to 3 minutes because in the real-time scenario, they are using powerful high-end capacities. The memory, CPU, everything is high-end, okay? A query folding is, in simple terms, sending the query from your Power BI desktop to SQL Server. And now the question is, query folding works only with SQL Server database or any other RDBMS. Will it work? Yes, it will work with Oracle and other databases. We will see it later. But it is not working. This feature is not available for SQL Server. So not SQL, so MySQL. You have something called MySQL. This feature is not enabled for MySQL. Query folding, Oracle database and Microsoft SQL Server, this feature is available. Fine, okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. Next we will do, so now we understood the basics of how to load the data, how to connect to SQL Server from Power BI desktop. Okay, the next one is we will take a look at something else called datawares. Okay, we have something else called datawares. Look here, database. So what is how to, now we will take a look at how to connect to database. Okay, and so what is first of all, what is database? So database is the Microsoft's cloud-based storage. Okay, so the database allows us to securely store and manage data that is used by business applications on cloud. So the data within the database is stored within a set of tables. Okay, so you need to remember this one. See, the Microsoft database, what it does is it allows us to connect directly to your data using Power BI desktop to create reports and publish them to Power BI cloud service. From Power BI, the reports can be used in dashboards, and it can be shared to other users and accessed across platform on Power BI mobile apps and all. Okay, that is the beauty of database. It's something you just think database is cloud, cloud. So we store the data on cloud instead of in our local desktop or laptop or local server. Okay, so the data is available in a centralized place, which is your cloud. In this case, we are talking about Microsoft database thing. Okay, that is where we store it. So now I just show you how to connect to the Microsoft database. You need to go to Google. So in the Google, I'll just show you. I'll open a fresh thing here. So make.powerapps.com. Make.powerapps.com. See, sometimes what will happen is you will not have official email ID to create a credential here. So in order to create the username and password on the Microsoft Power Apps site, you need to use your official email ID. If you have office email ID, you can use it, but it is not going to harm, it is not going to do anything. Okay, there is nothing. If you don't have it, you can ask your spouse or husband to share his official email ID, and you tell him nothing to worry about this. It is not going to cause any threat or security threat or something like that. Simply you need to just go and create the login credential. So when you click on here, it will ask you sign in. So initially you will have sign in button here. When you click on the sign in, It'll ask your official email ID and password. That's it. If you use your Gmail ID, it will not work. Better you use your official email ID. But I would suggest you don't have to sweat too much on this one. Simply watch this video, that is more than sufficient. Okay, and look here, I just type the URL make.powerapps.com. It got logged in automatically because I already signed up with this the cloud. So here I'm using my official email, support@deepneuron.in. Okay, fine, this is okay. And the next thing is, if I on the left side you can find the database here. Look here, database. Okay, and if you expand this one, you will find the tables, choices. These are the things are available under database. All we need is tables. When I clicked on tables, on the right side you will find a set of tables here. Look here, these are the account is a table, address is a table. Likewise, so many tables are there. These tables I did not create it. By default, these tables are available under your database. You don't have to create, you don't have to load the data and all. You don't have to have that headache here. But in the real-time scenario, if you wanted to store the data on cloud, click on new table, and you need to specify the name and all, and you need to create the table, and then you need to define the primary key column and then you need to load the data. For learning purpose, you don't have to worry anything. Okay, in the real-time project, if the customer let's say they stored the data on the database, just click on ask them the URL and go and see the table name here. So let's say the customer says, hey, I need account table. You just click on the account table. Already they would have created it here and they loaded the data, everything. You don't have to worry too much about that. Okay, so I can see that yes, account table and these are the things other. I don't have to worry. And if I scroll down here, what data are there in that table, you can see it. Look here, it will take some time to load the data. It depends on your internet connection. Account name and phone name. These are the data that are available as part of my account table. That's it. And the next step is, from Power BI desktop, how will I connect to this cloud database account table? So in order to connect to this one, look here. So you will find settings here. I just if you see on the top right corner, you will find this wheel kind of icon. Just click on it and you will find session details. Click on the session details, and here if you come down here somewhere, you will find something like this one, HTTPS, all the things. You don't have to copy everything, just select only this one, right click on it, copy it. This is what your Microsoft database server name, something like that. Okay, the URL, cloud URL name. And once you come here and in the get data, when you click on it, look here, you have database. Click on the database because you want to connect to database, hence you need to choose that connector. Now okay, it got connected automatically because okay, look here, the credentials provided or invalid. Sign in as connect. Sign as okay. Initially it will ask you the username and password and all. Okay, you are not signed in. Okay, I need to sign. No, it is causing. I think mine got expired. I don't know. Let me just see here. You're not signed in. Okay, so how do I change this one? Okay, don't worry about this. When you click on this, what will happen? It will ask the username and password of your cloud. Okay, and 1 second, let me just close this one. That is the problem. Once you store it, right, it will get, and if you change the password later point in time, and it will not, it will get connected by default. Yes, Ranjana, it needs a Power App login. Don't worry about login and all. See, don't get stuck up with the login and all. Okay, and you need to have, you can go and sign up. If you cannot sign up, leave it. Okay, and it should ask the username and password. It is not asking. This is a nonsense thing. Okay, when you connect, right, when you specify the username and password here, let me just use this one, otherwise common data sources. I have another option called common data. Click on more. Let me see if I should be able to connect it via common data sources. You need to wait, you need to have a lot of patience. Still it is going on. Okay, see, I just clicked on, yeah, so look here, you have something called, you just type click on the Power Platform, you will find something called common data service. Click on connect. Let me see if this is asking the username or the server name, everything. Okay, server URL. Look here, in this case, when you select the common data services, you need to use the same step. Click on the session details. You need to use the entire URL. But when you use the database connector in Power BI desktop, you need to connect only this name, that is more, you need to copy only this one, okay, and not HTTPS. But when you use common data services, you need to select the entire URL, and I am going to select everything here. And this is optional. I just click on OK. Again the same problem. Connect. Okay, somewhere I made changes to the username and password. It is causing problem now. It is not asking the username and password here. Okay, so advanced settings. Okay, here reorder columns optional, add display column, all the things is not. Okay, so let us ignore that. See, simple thing is like how we connected to the SQL server, right? The same way when you connect to SQL, the database, using that URL or the server name, it will bring up the data window wherein you will see all the tables. Select the tables, and you can select it, and then you can import. You have two connectivity mode, like in SQL server. You have import as well as direct connectivity mode. The import will download the entire data from your Microsoft database, whereas the direct connectivity will not import the data. Rather, it will import only the metadata. What do you mean by metadata? The table name and the column names only will get imported locally. The data will reside in the on the Microsoft database itself. It's that much simple. Okay, you don't have to worry too much about this. And next one is we'll take a look at how to import JSON file. I just clicked on get data and then more items. Okay, and you need to wait for some time. In the meanwhile, I'll go and check where the .json files are available in my local system. I don't remember it on top of my head. And that one, and here star.json. Let me see, star.json file is available. JSON files are available. Oh yeah, product data.json is available. Yes, here, look here on the right side, you can see the JSON. Okay, I want to use JavaScript object notation. JSON files are an advanced version of our XML because of some drawbacks with XML, or due to some flip side of using the XML file. They developed something called Java, so JSON, Java Service Object Notation thing, JSON format files. It is an advanced version of XML, and okay, and as look here, I have product underscore data or JSON file is there. I just click on open. Sometimes in real-time scenario, you will get the data from different types of files: Excel files, CSV files, JSON files, SQL Server. The combination of all the things you need to work. That is a real challenge, because in the direct query mode, uh, certain things will not work. Look here, the JSON file got loaded here. In the previous version of Power BI desktop, to open the JSON file, you need to go to Power Query Editor. You need to do some kind of thing. Okay, you need to do some kind of you need to expand something and all. Now in the latest version, it upfront open the data from your JSON file. You don't have to do anything. Look here, the Power Product data got loaded here. And now I just go and say Profile, close and apply. Okay, it got loaded, and if you go to the data view, you will find on the right side the product data. This is my JSON table. It got loaded here. See here, for demonstration purpose, I have used this one. So in there are some projects, you will get data of your product in one file and category also. Let's say these two are JSON files, and this is your CSV file, this is your Excel file, and this is your SQL Server table. And here these are all all these dimension tables you would have used the import mode, and for the fact table you will be using the direct connectivity mode. And we cannot generalize all the dimension tables, or you need to use import in all the time. Let's take for example, in the case of bank customers, take for example Citibank. What is their customer base? 25 million customers are there. The volume of the data is very high. Okay, and also the customer on a daily basis, they onboard new customers. It is not a static thing. See, location can be a static dimension. Let's say in India, where and all the bank branches are there. Once you store it, the location name and the address, everything of each branches, then it will not change more frequently, right? The data will not get changed. The branch will not get shifted every now and then, or the new branch, rarely they create they create a new branch, right? And it will rarely undergo changes, whereas the customer, in the case of banking, and even in the case of e-commerce, every day in day out new customers are coming in, right? They open the new account in the case of bank, and in the case of Amazon and other Walmart and all, right? So every day in day out, new customers are signing up. So this table will undergo changes more frequently. So since, and also the volume of the data is very high. Okay, hence these kind of tables also, dimension tables also, we use direct connectivity mode. Please remember this. In the interview they'll ask you, so how many dimension tables that you used it? You can say close to 12 dimension tables and 2 fact tables, and a couple of fact tables we have used direct connectivity mode, and couple of dimension tables we have used direct connectivity mode. The reason why we have used direct connectivity mode for the dimension tables are because, for example, ours is e-commerce business, and the customers every day, new customers will sign up, and right. So, and these tables, we don't want to import the entire data. Once you import the data, so you need to keep refresh it. and also it will consume too much of space in your hard disk and memory. So hence it is not the preferable way. In the simple rule of thumb is, if the volume of the data is very huge and if it undergoes frequent changes, those kind of tables you need to use direct connectivity mode. For the rest of the tables, you can use the import connectivity mode to simply download the data. Okay, and even in the case of Amazon, Walmart, Flipkart, right, so the product table also very huge. So if you see the Amazon website, they listed 1 billion products, not million, billion products they listed on their website, right? So if you use import connectivity mode, you will run out of space. Better you can, the product dimension, customer dimension, you can import it, you can use the direct connectivity mode. Fine, hope you understood the difference between import connectivity mode and direct connectivity mode. And we will take a look at the another type of connectivity mode called live connection mode. Live connection. There are 3 types of connectivity mode. I'll just show you in my PowerPoint. See, the one is the import connectivity mode and the next one is direct query. These two we discussed in depth, and the last one is live connection. Still, I need to discuss about the import connection mode also. Behind the scene, what is happening, we'll discuss it a little later, or I will discuss now itself. Okay, and before I jump into live connection, we'll explain how the import connection mode is actually working. Okay, so next we'll take a look at the live connection mode. So in the case of live connection mode, the performance will be much faster compared to your direct query mode. Okay, but compared to all these 3 connection mode, import is the winner. So import is faster. Okay, and so what is okay, so now I told you import, when you use import connectivity mode, it is downloading the entire data locally into your Power BI desktop, in the sense in your laptop or in your local server. Okay, so that is what is happening. So after downloading the data, what happens is, this data gets compressed and then that data will get loaded into your memory. Okay, and also what happens is, it converts your data into columnar database. See, irrespective of the type of the file, whether it's a JSON file or text file or CSV file, you take when you load any type of file, Power BI desktop consider all of them as tables, right? So in this case it's all tables. Earlier in the previous session or in today's session also, right? In the previous session we discussed about how to load the data using folder connection mode and the CSV files or Excel files, right? Those are all, even if you load any type of file, it will consider as a table. That is, we are very clear. Okay. The next step is, what happens in the case of import mode, it will convert the table data into columnar database. It will convert your table data into columnar database, and then I'll just write it here. In import, it undergoes, it processes, it processes the data in 3 steps. One is, it will convert the table data into columnar database, and second step, what it does is, table data in columnar database, and then it will compress the data, and then load the data into memory. This is what is happening when you use import connectivity mode behind the scene. You will convert the table data into columnar databases. You are quite new into columnar database, right? So what is columnar database? Okay, the columnar databases are something like so what is that? I don't remember it on top of me. Just give me a second. These guys are banging like hell. So what are the example for columnar database? In the case of Hadoop system, the columnar databases are gaining a lot of popularity. Okay, and it is something like the Amazon Redshift. Okay, there is something called Amazon Redshift. The Redshift is an example for columnar database, and other this one. What is that? Columnar database. See, I forgot everything. Yeah, you just think about the Amazon Redshift is one of the examples for the columnar database. So now the question is, what is the difference between tabular database and columnar database? Why it converts the tabular data into columnar database? Okay, the reason is the columnar database are much faster. Columnar database are much faster. Why it is much faster? I'll just tell you. See, in Power BI, the workhorse of Power BI is we have something called VertiPack. Though it is a very old one, this is the popular one still. So this is one of the engine driving, this is the working force. This is the workhorse behind the Power BI software. This is something like a software piece. Okay, so see, VertiPack is the one does all these things. Okay, these three steps. When you import the data into Power BI desktop, the VertiPack, what it does is it carries out these three steps. Okay, or three tasks. First, it converts your table data into columnar database. So let's say in my table I have 1000 columns are there. In my table I have 1000 columns are there. Okay, but in my report all I need is just 6 columns. Listen very carefully. 1000 columns are there in my table, but for my to create a report, 6 columns are enough from this 1000 columns. Okay, but these 6 columns are not available sequentially. So 1, 2, probably, right? So the 6th column will be available here, and here we have 4th column available here, 5th column available here. That's something like that. Okay, it is scattered here and there. Okay, so what will happen is, in this case, in the case of table, it will load the entire 1000 column, and then it will go and check whether the first column is customer ID, second column is location key, and third column is something else, until it finds the correct name of or the desired columns. Until it finds the desired column names, right? It has to keep skip. It will go and check. Am I looking for this column? Let's this is okay. 6 columns are like for example, some customer ID and name and product ID and location. These columns are not necessarily have to store sequentially, isn't it? 1000 columns means it will have all the other columns, but it will first go and check whether it's a customer ID. No, it is not customer ID. It has to skip and go and check here. This is not customer ID, and it has to go here and check. Oh yes, this is customer ID. And next one is name. So it is a name. No, and okay, the 6th one is the name. It has to keep skip until it finds the columns that are until it finds the desired column. Okay. Skipping will take longer time, especially when you have huge so many number of columns. Okay, and that too, if you have huge volume of data, it takes a lot of time. So in the columnar database, how it stores is, it stores each columns individually. It stores each column individually. For example, if you wanted to see these 6 columns, right, it will directly go to the customer ID column and fetch all the data. And you have something called location sales. So you wanted to see only this location wise sales. You have since the column got stored separately, the location and sales also stored separately. So okay, I am interested in viewing Bangalore, Pune, Chennai. So it will select only these 3 records and then the corresponding records, whatever the data is there here, will go and pick up. Since it goes directly to the columns and picks up the values, the column database are much faster. That is the reason why it converts the table data into columnar database, and then it compresses the data, zipping, kind of zipping, okay, and then it loads the data into memory. Since it compresses the data and loads the data into memory, it will not consume too much of memory, and also the data is available in memory, hence the performance is much faster. If I ask your fiancé or your husband name, you will tell me instantly, right? Because in memory, you remember it in your memory. If I ask your if I ask your driver contact number, you will not remember it. You need to check your mobile phone, and then you have to give your car driver number, right? So if anything in memory, it is faster. Not only it is available in memory, but also the data get compressed. Hence, the performance is much faster. Okay, so this is what is happening behind the scene when you use the import connectivity mode. Hence, the import, since it is compressed data, load the data into memory, the performance is much faster. So reading the data from the memory is much faster always. Okay, so that is the reason why I told you the import connectivity mode is much faster, but you need to use this option on a case-to-case basis. Just because import is faster compared to other connectivity mode, blindly you cannot use it. As I told you, if the volume of the data is very huge, then don't do the mistake of importing the data. Go by direct query. And here's something else called live connection. Okay, and okay, the what is live connection? What is the live connection? So live connection is something like live mode. Okay, it is a direct connection to the source. It is direct connection to the source. So here also it is direct connection to the source, but even in this case also data will not be stored in Power BI model. And the difference between direct query and live connection is the live connection is supported only for the three sources. One is SSAS tabular and SSAS multidimensional. SSAS, okay, this is tabular, SS tabular, and SSAS multidimensional, okay, and the next one is Power BI service. So compared to direct query and live connection performance is much faster than the direct query. Okay, because it has a direct connection to the source. Okay, the data will not be stored in a Power BI model, but it supports only these type of sources. Since I did not have the SSAS tabular and multidimensional installed in my local desktop or the laptop, I will give you a demo of how to connect to Power BI service. Okay, it's already 3:30. Okay, and if I show you, it will take another 15 minutes time. Okay, what we will do is we will take a deep dive regarding these three types of connection mode in the next session in depth, and also we'll give you a demo how to connect to Power BI service in live mode. So we have something called PBIDS file, Power BI data service. Okay, and this file we can connect to the live mode, and also we'll discuss about the pros and cons of this one in the next session. So next session is when? Tomorrow, same time. Okay, tomorrow we'll continue with this one, and followed by this we will jump into the other topics like the Power Query editor. Okay, we'll take and REST API also we'll see it tomorrow. Okay, but don't miss out tomorrow's session, and keep watching my videos. Okay, and even my website, everything is available now, and we have the previous batch videos are available. Look here, I just show you here. And I believe all of you have access to this website, Training in Chennai Info. If you don't have any access, please send me an email, or send me a message. Okay, I'll just go and check it out. And this is admin thing. And if you click on courses here, see, all you need just log in, and then once you log in successfully, click on courses. Okay, and if you scroll down here, you will find Power BI instructor, full stack Power BI instructor led course, and you will find view more here. You need to check till this, okay, and just because it is logging, it is not the complete one. You need to go and check whether it is available. It is available, but can you view the reports, sorry, the videos here, okay? For example, custom function assignments, if you click on it, randomly go and click on it and see if you are able to view the video, then you're all set. Just little bit scroll down. I'll give you one simple assignment, okay? You used to just start work on this one. All these things I put it the previous batch on the left side, and if you want to fast track it, you can do it. Look here, download sources. The second one is download sources. Click on the download. All the files will get downloaded in the zip format. Unzip it. That's it. You will find all the files there, tables there, files. Once you unzip it, use Ctrl F and search whichever file that you needed. For example, sales_w04. You can find it here. You don't have to go to my GitHub also, because here also I have made sure that the files are in sync with my GitHub data. Okay. And the next one is, if you scroll down on the at the bottom, you will find the study materials, Power BI study materials. This is the PDF files, okay, and you can see it here itself. It's a lifetime. You will have lifetime access. And look here, 51 pages are keep clicking on it, and then you can just take a look at this one also. This will help you to refresh whatever I teach you. The interview point also, this is very much helpful. And the interview question answer also, there is separate session. It is too early to go through on this, but in the meanwhile, you just take a look at this. What is REST API? What is Power BI data sources, which I am going to discuss tomorrow. If you watch these videos well ahead, so you will be able to understand when I give you a demo in a matter of minutes or seconds. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? Any questions? Any concerns? And also, you can send me your feedback about the sessions. Okay. And we will circle back tomorrow same time, since you don't have any questions, and we'll share the video after few minutes or so. Okay, fine. See you tomorrow same time. Okay.